This is the relationship series where we have conversations that help us to have better relationships. And if we have better relationships, we have a better life. So that's why we are here. I am going to give a forewarning today as we talk about the top 10 red flags in sex and romance. I cried a lot while creating this list because I've experienced all of these flags. So I've done these things or have had them done to me. This is me healing in plain sight. So I'm healing on screen today in real time. Ooh, okay. Top 10 red flags in sex and romance. Number 10. They invite you to a Coldplay concert. Okay, I'm just kidding. Number 10. You are not healed from your past relationship. I know this sounds like a no-brainer, but it is not, because we cannot assume anything these days. It is right up there with, hey, I need to explicitly ask if you are married, if you are engaged, if you are involved in some way, if you are gay or homosexual. We need to ask explicit questions. We cannot assume anymore because I've heard it all. I've heard, girl meets boy, girl likes boy, they date, and all of a sudden it comes out he's married. She says, why didn't you tell me? He says, you didn't ask. I mean, we have to be explicit. So how do you know if they're not healed from their past relationships? Typical signs include they talk a lot about their ex-partner. And again, if this is you, then you have to notice this within yourself. So be self-aware. You talk a lot about your ex-partner. You find excuses to include them in every conversation. They are consistently on your mind and on your social media site. You know what they had for breakfast this morning. That might be a sign that you are not healed from your past relationship, that is still very present with you. This is confession. I knew I wasn't healed from a past relationship when I saw this. I repeated a pattern in relationships for years. There was always overlap. So there were no clean breaks. There was no time in between relationships to be alone and to heal. So I would be physically present in a relationship, but emotionally, I was like on to the next. For me, it was done, but I didn't get around to telling the other person that. This is a clear sign that healing has not happened because there's no time for it to happen. The last time I told myself, no more, I'm not doing this again. There came a point where I needed to realize that true healing was the missing factor so that I could move on well and so that I could stop repeating the same bad relationship over and over. Clearly, I'm a slow learner, right? We have to know what our red flags are and be able to recognize them in other people. I actually thought about it afterwards. I thought, how do you know you are healed from a past relationship? I asked myself this question. How did I know that I was healed from a past relationship? And we're actually going to go into this because we're going to do top 10 cheat codes to becoming more dateable in the next couple of weeks. But I give you one for free. One of the clues was that I was okay being alone. And I was building a life of fulfillment on my own. That was one of the clear signs that I was healed from a past relationship. When that person was out of my system, I wasn't checking in with them on a Tuesday just for no random reason. I wasn't driving by their house. I wasn't social media stalking. I wasn't thinking about what they were thinking about. I wasn't thinking, what are they thinking about what I'm doing now? They were completely gone out of my system. When I became an individual who made my own decisions, driven by what was pleasing to me, by what was fulfilling in my life, that's when I knew that I was prepared and ready, healed enough to move well into a future relationship. Top 10 red flags in sex and romance. Number 9, you feel like a therapist. And again, this goes both ways. So you may not feel like the therapist, but you may feel like you have a therapist. And this boils down to oversharing, under asking. There's a lack of curiosity in the relationship. There's no sort of mutual sharing going back and forth. One of the things that I notice in therapy And I hate to use this term because it sometimes has a negative connotation, but trauma dumping. So if you are in a relationship and it's not mutual, there's a lot of you listening and a lot of them trauma dumping or sharing of their lives, and they are not asking you about your life, about your past, about your thoughts, about what pleases you, about, things that are important to you, about you as a person. There's no curiosity there, and you cannot have a connection without curiosity. That builds a false sense of intimacy. And I see this especially because clients sometimes will come, they'll, talk to me for days, weeks, months, years, and they feel close to me, especially when it comes to opposite sex. But it's a fake kind of intimacy because they know nothing about me. I mean, on some level, you feel like you know them, they're forthcoming with their information, but you're not given a chance to be known. And that has to happen in a healthy, long-term, quality type of relationship. So I met this guy, great guy, just funny, smart, handsome, all the things. And I noticed that he would call and he would sort of do this formal question asking, like, hey, how you doing? How was your day? But before I could fully answer, he would just dive into like a monologue. And he was an excellent storyteller. So everything that he said was exciting. And I got pulled in and I was like, oh yeah. And I'm all into the story. And I thought, this is so good because he's so forthcoming. He's extroverted. He's vulnerable and open. But I remember getting off the phone one day and thinking, he didn't really ask anything about you, did he, Jen? Here's the thing. I am aware that I am difficult to know. So I do take a lot of time to feel comfortable, to feel safe, to get to know people, to share myself. I do know that. So this is not all on the other person, but it is something to note because I want to be able to build a relationship that's long term, which means there has to be room and space for both parties in the relationship. And I remember thinking to myself, Jen, you either have to address this issue or send an invoice because these are like therapy dates. They're not like real dates kind of thing. So I did address the issue and I said to him, hey, this is kind of what I'm noticing, how I'm feeling. And he was floored. He was like, I was thinking the same thing. I thought you were like so guarded. I didn't want to like pry and so on. And that's another thing. He was very open to feedback. So that's also a red flag. If they're not open to feedback and to making changes in the relationship because you bring something up, that's a red flag for sure. Because long term, that's not sustainable. So if you feel like a therapist, there's a lack of curiosity, there's oversharing, or there's under asking on either part, then that is not a mutually inclusive or sustainable dynamic. Top 10 red flags in sex and romance. Number 8, rushing, moving too fast. And this includes all forms of rushing. You're rushing into sex, you're rushing into moving in together, you're rushing into calling each other, husband and wifey, you're rushing. 2 weeks. You can't live without each other. You've never felt this way before. This person is your best friend, your friends that you've had since kindergarten. Nobody can hear from you anymore because you're just all wrapped up in this person. Red flags. You're a month in, start planning a wedding, planning to get married. Red flag. Now, my hand is all the way up on this one, all the way up. I went from first date to married in 9 months. Now, at the time, I thought we did a good job getting to know each other, but 9 months is wild. I think back. It is not even a full year. You don't even know how I am in the winter versus the summer because we haven't even gone through all 4 seasons. Like, there is just no way to fully know someone, and not fully know, even partially know, even a little bit of know someone in that little time. And I mean, we included all the things. So this is dates, this is getting to know one another's friends and families, this is planning a wedding and getting married in 9 months. I mean, just wild. I went to Malaysia earlier this year, and they told me about the durian fruit. And they said that once you plant a tree, you have to wait 5 to 10 years for that tree to bear the fruit. Imagine waiting 5 to 10 years for a fruit to bear, and we trying to get married in 5 to 10 months. Like, just wild stuff. I think about it now, and I wonder to myself about the mentality that precedes that. I had a conversation with a chef, like a gourmet chef, and he talked about the process, like looking for ingredients, going and shopping at the different markets and bringing all the flavors together and chopping, the vegetables or each piece of the meal just right. All the pieces of the vegetables need to be a certain size and all this. Like, he would take so much time to create this gourmet meal. And my thought was, if you want to have a gourmet relationship, why not take the time? If you want to have a relationship that's quality, that is long term, that is healthy, why not take the time? I mean, why try to fast food the relationship? Nobody's trading Michelin star restaurants for McDonald's. Like, that's not a thing for whatever reason, whether you want to have guilt-free sex, whether you want to, have babies because your biological clock is ticking, or maybe like your friends are all married and you feel left out. For whatever reason, it is not worth rushing and taking less time than you need to take to get to know that person and create a solid foundation for a healthy, long-term, quality relationship that lasts. My goodness, and that is good. Red flag, rushing. And again, my hand all the way up on this one. Woo, been there, done that. Won't do it again. Top 10 red flags in sex and romance. Number 7, you're confused. So if you're confused, or if you're unsure, if you're unclear in any way, if there are mixed signals, that's a red flag. The body keeps the score. The body will tell you, and I've learned to listen to my body and my nervous system when it comes to telling me what things are good and harmful or helpful or safe or what have you. When your body is reacting and when your brain is reacting, telling you like fight, flight, freeze, fawn, it's the brain's way of helping to protect you. It's the brain's way of telling you that there's some kind of threat, there's some kind of danger, something is off, something is not quite right. Your heart beating quickly, constantly checking your phone for messages from them, feeling anxious, not quite sure where you stand with them, how they feel about you. Those are all red flags, and they're designed to protect you from potential danger later on. So here's some signs. You're walking on eggshells. Your nervous system has gone haywire. You're convincing yourself that this is a good relationship. That's a big one. If you are over functioning in the relationship in hopes that over functioning, doing the most, being super nice, being super accommodating in the hopes that that's going to gain their affection, that is a big one. If you are trying to prove to them that you are worthy in some way. Look at me, I'm pretty enough, or I'm smart enough, or I'm rich enough, or I'm whatever enough. Those are huge signs that potentially you need to take a closer look at the health and quality of this relationship. Those are huge red flags. So you need to be, you shouldn't be trying to prove yourself worthy in a relationship. Like, you should be able to relax and feel a sense of emotional safety and security in that relationship, and do so while being yourself. You're accepted for who you are, just as you are. That doesn't mean you're never going to grow. It doesn't mean you're never going to change, learn new things or learn new skills, especially for the purpose of enhancing that relationship. But it does mean that at this particular moment in the present, if we can't accept where we are at and accept one another, then it is highly unlikely that we'll make it to anything, long term or in the future. If I don't feel safe and desired and accepted right now, just as I am, then I will likely never feel that in the relationship because I've accomplished another degree, or I've gotten a different job, or I make a different amount of money, or I've visited another country, or I've dyed my hair a color, or I've lost 20 pounds. I will likely never get that sense of safety or feeling of desirability or acceptance. So if you're confused, if there are mixed signals, if you don't feel safe, if your nervous system is haywire, then recognize that as a red flag and take note. I noticed the difference between what I accept from my friends and what I accept from a future potential romantic partner. I will accept certain things from my friends. Like my friends, they can be somewhat impulsive and inconsistent and maybe have looser boundaries. But from someone that I'm partnering with, that I am looking to build a romantic and sexual relationship with, I need more. I need to feel more secure. I need to feel more like I can predict what you're going to do and what you're going to say. I need to have some consistency. I need to know that your boundaries are secure so that I can feel like you're keeping me safe as well. So I'm talking about what you say is what you do. I'm talking about you have self-control, you have integrity, you're honest, consistent. I need to see and have those things when it comes to a romantic or sexual relationship. Top 10 red flags in sex and romance. Number 6, you constantly have to manage boundary violations, even small ones. So when there is disrespect when it comes to your stated boundaries. So these are boundaries that you've verbalized, not stuff in your head that you hope they'll know because it's assumed that they'll know. This is like, you've said, this is what I like, what I don't like. This is what I need, what I don't need. This is what I appreciate, what I don't appreciate. And they respond with some level of minimization, ridicule, something like that. So you say no and they say, oh, come on, you're being so, hold on. You say, hey, these are my values, these are my needs. And they start to say stuff like, oh, you're such a prude, or you're no fun. And it's just is probably the worst thing to say to me. If I say something to you that's important to me and you say it's just, the red flag is already waved. If you try to guilt me into anything, you try to make fun, my no's are non-negotiable. You need to recognize when people are testing you, trying you, pushing your boundaries, violating your boundaries, and you have to repeat yourself over and over and over. During the course of conversation with a potential prospect, it will inevitably come up. I'm a person of faith. I don't have sex before marriage. That's my standard. And hey, what are your ideas and thoughts and feelings around this area of sexuality? Because that's a big part of romantic relationship. That's part of what sets us apart from other relationships, platonic and friendship. I'll say, you know what, I don't have sex before marriage. I want to preserve my body for someone that I'm married to. And I've gotten a number of responses, mostly respectful. Most men will say, I respect that. Let's continue to get to know one another. And other men might say, you know what, I need to have sex as part of my relationship with someone. So I'm going to move on to the next. There's a mutual respect there when we're able to be honest about our standards and about our values. This one guy, very respectful guy, very handsome. And there was mutual attraction there. We start talking and spending a lot of time together. We become closer. There's the touchy-feely, the kissing and the hand holding and all that stuff. It's quite cute as we go along. One day we were alone. Things were getting intense. I'm a human, right? We're sexual beings. I'm actively in the moment trying to slow things down because temptation has a point of no return. I promise you that. So I don't want to get there because that's not about to be my story, right? So I'm like, no, let's actively slow this thing down where this is getting to be too much. And so I do this thing where I'm like, okay, we got to stop. Like, stop touching me, stop kissing me, stop all the things. It's an abrupt stop. And you know what happened? This guy chuckles. He chuckles and he says, I wanted to see how far you'd go. I like teasing you. The devil much? Sir! Now, don't get me wrong. At the time, because I'm in the moment, of course, I am not thinking boundary violation, terrible, oh my goodness. I'm not thinking that at all. I'm thinking, thank God I got out of there with my clothes on. But after, when I thought about it, I was like, oh, that's not good. And make no mistake about it, I am not innocent. I do not absolve myself of responsibility or accountability in this at all. I'm attracted to you and I'm at your house at midnight and nothing is going to happen. Come on, Jen, be for real. I get it. I know where my lines are that I am crossing. I sometimes violate my own boundaries and I know that I need to put those in check. But what I'm saying is we have to recognize, yes, when we're doing it to ourselves, but also when others are doing it to us. If you have said, hey, this is what I don't want to do, where I'm not going, and they keep pushing and they keep pressing and do you think that's going to stop? Probably not. So pay attention to those things. And we're talking little things and big things, things that are really, really important to you or things that you've just mentioned. You know, I want to get home at 9 o'clock in time to get enough rest because tomorrow I have a long day. And it's 9 o'clock, you guys are still at the restaurant and he's like talking your ear off and showing no signs of wanting to bring you home. No, they're little things, but they're big things. They mean that you're creating a pattern within the relationship that's going to continue. So if there's a pattern of disrespect and disregard for the boundaries, that's going to continue and it's going to apply to bigger things and more important things later on. So it's a red flag for you to pay attention to and take note of. Top 10 red flags in sex and romance. Number 5, unaddressed mental health issues. Trauma, depression, anxiety, addiction, personality disorders, mental illness. All of it. If you are not in therapy, you haven't acknowledged these issues, they are going untreated, then that is a red flag in relationship. And I know this sounds bad. It comes out as, okay, well, if I'm struggling, if I'm dealing with a mental, emotional health issue, then does that mean I'm disqualified from having a healthy sexual and romantic relationship? Does that mean I'm undeserving of having a healthy sexual romantic relationship or being loved? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when you are dealing with mental health issues, emotional health issues, that your perceptions and beliefs about yourself and about others and about the world are skewed. And if something is affecting your ability to see and to think and to feel and to behave clearly on your own, then best believe that it's going to affect and impact your relationships, anything that you try to build with another person. That means there's greater potential for harm, to hurt the relationship. That's a huge red flag because people think sometimes like my mental health issues should be acceptable and I'm just going to show up in this relationship any way I want. No, sweetie, that's not anybody else's responsibility. It is your responsibility to deal with the thing that is potentially hindering you or that could potentially harm someone else. It is your responsibility. And that's why I said unaddressed. If it's unaddressed, it's untreated, it's unacknowledged, you're not moving towards healing and growth actively and intentionally, then yeah, that's a huge red flag. If you tell me you're dealing with major depressive disorder, but you're not going to your doctor, psychiatrist, you're not getting treatment, you're not in counseling, you're not in therapy, you're not in a support group, you're not doing nothing, come on. We deserve better in our relationships. You deserve better in your life. Sex and romance are big, big things. So many unknowns. There's so many taboos. There are so many feelings and thoughts and unwanted identities and secrets and shame. There's so much around sex and romance. And to add in mental health issues is unpredictable, and it's irresponsible. Dare I say it? Unaddressed mental health issues. And I have been a whole red flag in this area. I'll admit it. I was depressed and discouraged dealing with complicated grief, not understanding how to manage my emotions, emotionally dysregulated. And I pursued relationship partially to validate myself, partially to feel normal again. And I realized that I did a grave disservice to the potential of my romantic relationship. I'm sad. I'm down. I'm low mood. I'm either newly broken up or I'm, still dealing with the aftermath of a past loss. And I'm entering a new relationship with all of that unaddressed, unacknowledged, and untreated. Bad idea. It was a bad idea. I went through a lot of tears and heartbreak, and I put others through a lot of tears and heartbreak as well because I made bad decisions. Again, something to pay attention to. It is not a disqualifier. It is none of that. It's just a red flag. Top 10 red flags in sex and romance. Number 4, sex feels impersonal, transactional, it is coerced, or you feel hurt, violated, or lonely. So all of these matter. If at any point you get into a sexual relationship with someone and it feels coerced, meaning you're being forced or convinced to have sex outside of your true desire, if it feels impersonal, like you're an object, you are being used, or you're like a vending machine, tap it, put the money in, get the stuff out. If it feels transactional, so you give, I take, you give, and you feel hurt, violated, or lonely, these are all red flags. I got married a virgin. When I started having sex, I was shocked and disappointed. I thought there's something wrong with me because it wasn't pleasurable. I had no pleasure in having sex. One of the thoughts was that I was repressed or I was damaged in some way. I had taken too much time maybe to express myself or figure out myself sexually. This was just going to be my lot in life. And that's wrong, by the way, because women, we reach our sexual peak much later in life than men do. So that was wrong. But in my mind, these are the thoughts that were going on. I remember talking with a friend, and she encouraged me to reach out to a passion coach. So someone to help with some of these sort of sexually repressed feelings or limitations and to really work through it. I did not, but I do remember trying to work through the extreme dread that I would feel when I thought about having sex. I started trying to avoid it. Like I would offer oral sex because I didn't want to offer my body. I know somebody can relate to this because I've talked to a lot of people around this topic, and especially women can relate to having our bodies feel used, having our bodies feel uncared for in the sexual space. And make no mistake, it happens in marriage. There's marital rape, there's marital abuse, sexual abuse, there's marital sexual assault, there's all of that can happen. And there are marriages that are sexless and that where the parties are unfulfilled. So I know this happens. There's folks that can relate. You are not alone. I have felt it. I have been there. I think I felt more inadequate at the time. I was like, man, I can't even get this part of marriage right, this whole sex thing. But when I reflected on it, and this is my own personal healing work, what I connected back to was that feeling, how impersonal and transactional sex felt for me. I did expect to feel pleasure and connection. I did expect it to produce closeness, and I ended up feeling empty and disconnected. So my expectations were not met there. It was only after that the loneliness set in. I know now that true intimacy requires emotional safety. True intimacy requires emotional safety and presence. And that's not what I had. Because I got married a virgin, I haven't had, all these prior sexual experiences to compare it to. I'm just kind of holding all of these horrible feelings and I don't know what to do with it. We're going to talk about the top 10 intimacy boosters in a couple of weeks. So we'll talk a little bit more about intimacy, but no matter when you choose to have sex, pay attention to the treatment that you're getting, pay attention to how you feel before, during, and after sex. If you have any of these feelings and you're looking to create a long-term healthy quality relationship, it's a red flag, my dear. Top 10 red flags in sex and romance. Number 3, physical violence and lies. And I put them together because I think they're just both harassment and unnecessary. This one speaks for itself. But not really, because I see this happen so often and it's just so acceptable for some reason. But when it comes to physical violence, even in jest, that, you guys are wrestling, they're putting you in headlocks, all this kind of weird stuff. Like, pay attention to these things. It could be control. It could be lack of self-control. It could be power dynamics. It could be the first signs of, abusive tendencies. You just pay attention. It's a red flag, I think. And for me, if we're not married, this is actually not even a red flag. This is a hard stop. Like, you come at me a little bit too rough, too aggressive, and block and delete. Lies and violence are very big clues to how people live their lives. And I know I want to live my life in such a way that I don't have to lie. I want to live my life in such a way that I don't have to have regrets about what I'm doing, what choices I'm making, where I'm going. So I want that in a partner. I want us to be able to build that legacy and that pattern of relationship together. One of my guilty pleasures is watching this Pop the Balloon show, the original with Arlette, not these like weird spin-offs. I love the question she asks at the beginning. Who are you? What are your deal breakers? What are you looking for in a partner? And I am so often surprised by how rarely, how infrequently this comes up. Like, I don't like lies and I don't like violence. And I think part of it is people assume that those are just standards in relationships, but I don't think they are. I think we're willing to tolerate a lot more than we ought to in relationships that we want to last. And again, we're looking at this long term, like sex and romance. We're talking about quality relationship that will enhance our lives. And so if you're seeing violence and lies from the get-go, do you want to continue to deal with that for the rest of your life? You can't really feel comfortable with what this person says. They might be lying just because it's a Wednesday. Like, I feel like we need that trust. We need to feel safe and secure in our relationships. Know that our partners are telling us the truth, even when it's a hard truth, even when we don't necessarily want to hear that truth, right? But we want to know that our partners are willing, are open, are vulnerable enough, are courageous enough to tell us that truth. And we want to do the same. We want to show up in that truth, in that way. Yeah, I put them together because for me, I think they're related, and I think there's no excuse for them. Actually, somebody sent me a clip. This was wild. It was a wife. She was confronting her husband in the mall, and she rolls up to him. She's like, "Hey, babe." He's walking with another woman, and the woman is pushing a baby stroller with 2 kids in it. She's like, "Hey, babe." And the lady's like, "What, babe? Who are you calling babe?" And she's like, "This is my husband of 20 years. And the woman just looks at her and she's like, "This is your husband?" She's like, "Well, I guess I'm the baby mama then, because these are his kids." He is walking with, I was floored. The wife didn't know, apparently. She rolls up, she's upset. She's like, "Well, this is all over. You just told me we were going to renew our vows, but clearly that's not the case because you're walking around with this baby mama and your 2 young kids in a stroller in the mall for everybody to see." Coldplay much? Like crazy. This was the worst part for me. He says to her, his wife of 20 years, as he's walking in the mall with a baby mama and 2 small children that his wife didn't know about. He says to her, Come on, you ain't got to do this. It's my daughter's birthday. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take a wild guess here that at some point in time, before year 2, 3, 4, 15, and 20, that there were red flags that this man was a whole liar, was a whole manipulator of the truth. There had to have been a red flag or 2 or 20. I promise you, it doesn't get better when it comes to lies. It does not get better when it comes to violence. And I believe lies are actually violence against your psyche. They're violence against your intelligence. And so it doesn't even have to be a punch in the face, right? That's like a mental punch in the face to lie to me, look me in my eyes and lie to me. So it doesn't get better. This is a red flag. Clock it and deal with it accordingly. Top 10 red flags in sex and romance. Number 2, if sex is the focus and foundation of the relationship and this individual has no interest or capacity to cultivate deeper connection outside of sex, that is a red flag. If everything is about sex, that is sex is not going to last. I promise you, you need to be able to have a conversation. You need to have some kind of mutual desires, dreams, sense of purpose, plans. You need to have something other than sex. Okay. And I know we live in a society where there's hookup culture and there's friends with benefits and there's casual sex and there's Ashley Madison, and we live in a sexual society. Entertainment is about sex and everything is about sex. I get it. But that is not the only part of your relationship. It is an important part, but it's not the only part. And if you're trying to build a relationship that is long-term, that is quality, and that is healthy, then you need to have other components that are actually more built up than sex. There's a preacher, I can't remember his name. I think it's Madhu, his last name, Madu. Anyway, you can go look him up. But he did this illustration once that I saw, and he demonstrated how we build relationships in our society today with blocks. And he had like a small block at the bottom, and he had then a larger block, then a larger block, then a larger block. So it kind of looked like an upside down pyramid. And he's like, this is how we build relationships: sex, and then like emotional connection, and then like mental connection, and then like spiritual connection at the top. And it was like upside down. So it quickly toppled over. Whereas if we build relationships the other way, a pyramid with a strong, large foundation, we cultivate our spiritual connection, we cultivate our emotional connection, we cultivate our mental connection, and then we cultivate our sexual connection last. Then we have a pyramid that's able to stand and that can sustain long term. So I thought that was a really cool illustration. Maybe if I find the link, I will post it with this video. But I think at the end of the day, we are placing too much worth and value on sex, and we're trading it in. We're trading it in for the ability to connect deeply. And I think we all desire that and crave that on some level, to connect deeply with another person, to be known, to be loved, to know, and to love. And when we're trading like love, the potential for great love, for lust that's in the moment and that's fleeting, then I think we're doing ourselves a disservice for sure. So that's number 2. Number 1, top 10 red flags in sex and romance: willfully ignoring red flags. That is a red flag. If you avoid acknowledging red flags in the cultivation of any kind of relationship, that is a huge red flag. And you need to pay attention to that in yourself. There have been times, and I'll be very honest, when I know if I told anyone what was going on for me in my relationship, that they would tell me to run. I know that if somebody told me the things that were going on for me in my relationship, I would tell them to run. But for some reason, I'd be making excuses to endure. For some reason, I am justifying and rationalizing and explaining away the red flagness of the situation. Like, it is dire. There is like mistreatment, there's miscommunication, there's misunderstanding. Yet I'm in active denial around how serious this situation is. And I think that is an actual red flag, to notice yourself denying the reality of a bad situation. I'm not typically an anxious person, but I dated a guy once. His behavior was so sketch that I started getting like anxiety. And I would ask questions and he would just explain them away and have great explanations, by the way. I think I might be going crazy. Like maybe I didn't see or hear what I thought, or maybe that's not really true. Maybe that's not really, but inside, whoa, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, like all of the signs, all the alarms, everything is going off. And I knew that I shouldn't be there. I knew that I needed to walk away. But the last straw for me was one night I was bordering on, like, I felt anxious. I was like, I don't normally feel this. And I called a helpline, you know, those crisis lines? I picked up my phone and I called a helpline. And even as I'm dialing, I'm thinking to myself, Jen, why not just walk away from this? Why are you calling a helpline? You know you need to walk away. You've seen and heard too many red flags. Why are you calling? You know this is over. But I called anyway because sometimes it's just so deep that logic is not enough. Like, but I did ignore a lot of red flags. And I did that because part of me wanted to hold on to the good pieces, the good parts, the little ways in which my intimacy needs were being met. But alongside that, there was anxiety and pain and hurt and things that are not sustainable for a healthy, long-term, quality, gourmet relationship. So do we have time for a bonus? We might have time for a bonus. Next week on the Relationships Series, we're doing top 10 intimacy boosters. And the week after that, we're going to be doing top 10 cheat codes to become more dateable. Here's your bonus for today. A bonus top 10 red flag for sex and romance is loose boundaries. If you meet somebody and their boundaries are too loose, or if your boundaries are too loose, that is a red flag in a relationship. Why? In romantic long-term partnership, I'm going to say it like that, because that is a specific and special relationship and you need to have boundaries around it. And if you don't have boundaries around your life and around yourself, then it's going to be really difficult to put adequate boundaries or appropriate boundaries around your sexual and romantic relationship or partnership. And if you're too out there, like I dated a guy, anybody could call him at any time of the day or night, female, male, he would be there. Oh my goodness, there's a rat in my garage. Oh, gotta go. Yeah, right. Anyway, you need to have boundaries around your time, around your personhood, around your body, around everything, especially if you're looking to build something that's safe and that's quality and that's healthy and that's long-term. I'll see you guys next week on the Relationship Series. Always a pleasure to be here with you.